Okay, so let's go across and address the trends that we are looking at when it comes to the microfinance industry. And Satin Credit Care's asset quality improved in this December quarter, with provisions dipping by over 50%, and the profit numbers too saw a gain of as much as 39% this time around. What have been the key contributors to this good-looking quarter? Let's ask the management. Joining us on the show right now is Chairman and Managing Director, Mr. HP Singh. Mr. Singh, good morning and thanks for joining us. Let me just start off by addressing, the earnings for this particular quarter. And as it appears, it has been a very good one, considering the fact, especially when we've seen a drop of around provisions as well. If you could take us through the highlights of this quarter and what factors you attribute to the strength coming in.
I think the recovery has been possible after demonetization. If you look at the history since the last 4 quarters as such, the last quarter of FY17 and the first quarter of FY18 were both in losses because the recovery was slow in the field. I think the news of demonetization of loan waivers and everything were taking a toll on it. But after in fact, also a better monsoon, a good monsoon, I think, and the recovery from demonetization, the last 2 quarters have been profitable. And the asset quality has improved because recoveries are coming in, people are coming back into the system. So we've had probably a doubling of the PBT technically from the September quarter to the December quarter. And the PAT, which was close to about 11.2 crores in the September quarter, has risen to approximately about 23 crores in the December quarter.
Mr. Singh, good morning. This is Shraddha here. I do understand that your gross NPAs have improved to 9.17%, so the sequential improvement over there, but they'll still remain high at 9.17%. And I just wanted to understand if this improvement on a sequential basis could largely be attributed to higher recoveries, and if you could see a similar trend in recoveries over the next 1 or 2 quarters as well.
Yes, I think the recoveries have been fairly good across in the last couple of quarters, because if you look at the collection efficiencies, it has always been in the last 6 months above 100%. And that would technically lead in overdue recoveries coming in. Our own sense is, I think, we've been able to cover a lot of distance across, because if you look at our gross NPAs, they were somewhere around 14.3% at some point of time, having brought it down to about 9.17. So the net NPAs technically now remain at about 3.67%. Our own sense is this is probably the last buckets and the last trends which are still showing some form of resistance. It's going to be a little slower, but our own sense is, I think in the next couple of quarters, this probably will also be addressed at, and our gross NPAs will definitely drop a bit more further.
Sure. So if you could share the total collection efficiency, the cumulative number from 8th November 2016 till date, and by when do you see NPAs, gross NPA numbers coming down to levels of say 5% or so?
If I give you a chart, as I said, the last 6 months we've got close to 100% recoveries, collection efficiency is more than 100%. But if you look at the overall lags, and if I talk of a lag, that how many customers technically have paid their November due after demonetization, so that's close to 97% now, which was in fact about 5 months back. If I give you a figure, as compared to 97%, it was close to about 93%. So we gained that huge lag, even in spite of the fact that the demonetization happened across in November, which is about 1 year and about 3 to 4 months away. It's been a good sense of recovery, and my own thought process in looking at the numbers and the way it actually pans out to be. GNPA close to about 5% gave us a couple of quarters, but I think definitely it will be there maybe in a quarter or so.
Sure. So, but you might still end FY19 with a net loss number though, right?
We're trying our level best not to have at least the ending of this year by overall a loss number. Hopefully we'll be able to do it and end up on a very positive note. That's what I thought. Okay.
Sure. And so you just started operations at Satin Housing Finance with the first loan disbursement in February 2018. So I know this is a little forward looking, but just wanted to understand the rationale and the timing for foray into housing finance right now, because recently there was a report from RBI and Moody's as well highlighting the trend of rising NPAs in affordable housing segment specifically. So just your strategy with respect to housing finance, and what is your typical customer profile and the average ticket size that you're looking at?
So housing, again, we're trying to again build up a huge niche area for ourselves. Since we are a microfinance institution and our outreach is majorly rural, as compared to any other enterprise into affordable housing as such. The niche area which we're trying to develop is mainly on the account of rural housing, which we are trying to look at. And we've done a lot of surveys. We've done actually, pilots across where we feel that the demand is so huge and the players in the real sense, if you call it the rural housing segment, I think that you won't find players across over there. So the advantage which Satin has in terms of its outreach because of microfinance, our major thrust is going to be on the rural micro housing segment as such. And believe me, that's a huge segment to be there. It's largely a very untapped segment, and that's what our whole strategy is going to be based on.
So, any numbers that you can share or any sort of internal targets with respect to the housing finance book size, say, over the next 3 years, and how much its share would be in the total loan book of your company?
I can't give you exact, but the blueprints which have been worked out and the projection we've done, we at least would be doing at least about 150 crores by about a year or so in the housing finance space. And on the overall side, I probably will not be able to give you the housing finance space per se as a percentage or a basis of there. But what we are trying to look at in the next few years, that we're going to bifurcate microfinance and non-microfinance. And typically what we would, trying to look at it as part of our blueprint is that we'll have 2/3 of microfinance in terms of our AUM and 1/3 would be non-microfinance product, housing as well as SME put together.
Okay. Sir, you have forayed into housing finance business to diversify your book, but are there any other non-microfinance lending areas that you are or may consider in the future, or anything that is on the anvil?
We've already started doing the SME, so we have close to about an 80 crore book in the SME finance space, so that is also non-microfinance. So that's why I said, that non-microfinance, which includes SME financing and housing finance, right now which we are doing is in the next few years going to be probably our main thrust areas as such. And that is where we do. And if something else we find opportunity again in relation to something in rural finance, I think we'll probably be looking at that more intently.
Mr. Singh, can you give us an idea about credit costs as they stand and the impact of rising yields, and what could that bring when it comes to operations going ahead?
Sorry, I didn't get it. Which costs?
My question was to do with credit costs currently and the fact that, we could see an impact of rising yields.
See, rising yields, definitely, I think, for us, as we foray with the, downward regime in the interest, this thing, but I think they've probably been more stable enough, So the yields will remain stable, that's what our thought process is. In fact, our net interest margin has increased in the last quarter by about 4% or so. So, sorry, 3% or so. So for us, we feel that it's fairly going to remain stable. And the credit cost, definitely, I think, the way the NPAs of ours are going down, definitely is far under control and go down further across over there.
All right, Mr. Singh, thank you very much for joining us here on Bloomberg Quint. Appreciate your time. That was the management of Satin Credit Care Network. Pretty confident, and we've also seen a significant improvement as far as the numbers are concerned, and broadly that has been the trend with respect to the entire microfinance sector as well. But the earnings season is almost over, and we're looking back at individual sectors to take a stock of how the December quarter has been for players in